Hello everyone and welcome to AP Government and Politics Tips and Tricks. Today we're diving into the foundations of American democracy. This is topic 1.1 in the CED for AP Government and Politics. Let's get started. First we need to define what government is before we can start diving into what government does. So government is, for the sake of this course, the institution through which a society makes and enforces its public policies, but it also has a couple key functions as well, which we're going to talk about right now. One of the main functions of government is to maintain order. Another main function is to provide public services, as well as ensuring national security, supporting economic stability, and finally protecting individual freedoms, to name a few. Now let's talk about politics. Politics is a process by which we select our governmental leaders and what policies these leaders pursue. Politics is essential because it shapes public policy, determines the allocation of resources, and influences how power is distributed and exercised. But now we know what government is and politics is. Next, we need to understand the philosophical foundations that help to influence the United States government and its founding. One of the leading philosophers who kind of set a good influence on the United States was John Locke. John Locke was a major Enlightenment thinker whose ideas significantly impacted the Founding Fathers. He believed in natural rights, such as life, liberty, and property. He also introduced the social contract theory, which states that governments exist to protect natural rights, and people have the right to overthrow a government that fails to do just that. But more about that later. Our second philosopher is Montesquieu, who contributed the idea of separations of powers, which we see in Federalist Paper number 51, as well as checks and balances, as well as advocating for the division of government, power among legislative, executive, and judicial branches to prevent tyranny. Sound familiar? We'll look at that more in depth here in the near future. The final philosopher for our topic today is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who emphasized popular sovereignty, the idea that government derives its authority from the consent of the governed. It also sets the foundations for limited government. Classical republicanism also played a role in emphasizing civic participation and the common good over individual interests, the importance of civic virtue and moral education, and a mixed government combining elements of democracy, aristocracy, and monarchy. Understanding the historical context of the American Revolution is crucial. British colonial policy shifted from salutatory neglect, where there was minimal interference in colonial affairs, to strict control post-1763, to pay for war debts and to control the colonies. This included things such as the Stamp Act, the Townsend's Act, and the Intolerable Acts. We'll talk about that more in depth in the future. The colonial response included the First Continental Congress in 1774, which coordinated colonial resistance, and the Second Continental Congress followed in 1775, which managed the war effort and moved towards independence. The Declaration of Independence, authored by Thomas Jefferson and adopted on July 4, 1776, had several key components. First, we have the preamble, which states the document's purpose. Why does it exist? The Statement of Natural Rights justifies independence based on Enlightenment principles. The grievances against King George III, which lists specific complaints. The Declaration asserts the colony's status as free and independent states. Now we have a free nation, but before we can have the United States Constitution, we have something called the Articles of Confederation, which was adopted in 1777. This established a confederation of sovereign states with a weak central government. Congress could make treaties and alliances, maintain armed forces, and could coin money. However, the Articles had significant weaknesses. It had no power to tax, no national executive or judiciary, amendments required unanimous consent, inability to regulate interstate commerce, and they lacked a centralized military power, amongst others. A key event that really showcased the limitations to the Articles was Shays' Rebellion, which occurred between 1786 and 1787, which was an uprising led by disgruntled farmers in Massachusetts and exposed the weaknesses and highlighted the need for a stronger central government. This breaks ways for the Constitutional Convention. So in 1787, the Constitutional Convention was held in Philadelphia to address the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. The delegates faced major issues, including representation, slavery, and executive power. They were, however, able to reach a few significant key compromises. The first being the Great Compromise, or the Connecticut Compromise, which established a bicameral or two-chamber legislature with the House of Representatives based on population and the Senate with equal representation amongst all 50 states. Currently. Not at the time period, but currently. The next we have is the Three-Fifths Compromise, which counted slaves as 3/5 per person for representation and taxation. The final we have is the Commerce and Slave Trade Compromise, which allowed Congress to regulate interstate and foreign commerce, but not to ban the slave trade for at least 20 years. The ratification debate pitted Federalists who supported a strong central government and the new Constitution against Anti-Federalists who feared centralized power and lack of individual rights. The Federalist Papers, a series of essays written by Hamilton, Madison, and Jay, promoted ratification. To address Anti-Federalist concerns, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, was added to protect individual liberties. The United States Constitution is founded on several key principles, first being popular sovereignty. The authority of the government is derived from the people. Limited government. Government can only exercise powers granted to it by the Constitution. Separation of powers. Divided government responsibilities into distinct branches to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful and gaining too much power and overthrowing the other branches. Checks and balances, whereas each branch of government can check the powers of the other branches to maintain a balance of power. Next we have federalism, which is a division of power between national and state governments. Republicanism. Citizens elect representatives to make decisions on their behalf when they can't, or an indirect democracy. Individual rights, which is the protection of personal liberties and rights against government infringement. The Constitution is often referred to as a living document because of its ability to adapt to changing circumstances through amendments and judicial interpretation. Its foundational principles continue to influence American democracy today. As we move forward in this course, I encourage you all to engage in the democratic process and stay informed about governmental actions and policies. Understanding the foundations of our government helps us appreciate the importance of our role as citizens in maintaining and improving our democracy. Thank you for your attention on this matter, and let's continue exploring the fascinating world of American government and politics. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Like it, share it for more. Catch you guys in the next video. Have a great day.